The secret of the ancients. Why are millennial monuments perfectly aligned with the stars? Imagine discovering that ancient civilizations, separated by thousands of kilometers and centuries, built monuments that point to the exact same constellations. Coincidence? Impossible. Today, we will reveal the mystery behind the most impressive stellar alignments in human history and discover why our ancestors had astronomical knowledge that rivals our modern technology. Prepare for a journey that will change your perception of humanity's past. The Great Pyramid of Giza and Orion. The first mystery, the Great Pyramid of Giza, is not just a pharaonic tomb. It's a stone astronomical computer that reveals cosmic secrets guarded for millennia. The pyramid's internal shafts, erroneously called ventilation shafts, point directly to specific stars. The King's Chamber shaft points to Alnitak, the central star of Orion's belt, while the Queen's Chamber shaft aligns with Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. But here's the mystery that baffles archaeologists. These alignments didn't work at the time the pyramid was built. Around 2580 BCE, they worked perfectly in 2450 BCE due to the phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes. This means that the ancient Egyptians not only knew about precession, a 26,000-year cycle that our science only discovered in the 16th century, but also built the pyramid for a specific future alignment. How is this possible? The mathematical precision required to calculate precession and project future alignments would demand extraordinarily advanced astronomical knowledge. Robert Bauval, in his theory of the Orion correlation, demonstrated that the three pyramids of Giza form a perfect terrestrial map of Orion's belt. The relative position of the pyramids, including the slight misalignment of the Pyramid of Menkaure, corresponds exactly to the position of the three stars of the belt, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Even more impressive, alignment was perfect in 10,450 BCE, a time preceding the official Egyptian civilization by thousands of years. Who possessed sufficient astronomical knowledge to plan this correlation? The geometric precision of the pyramids reveals other stellar secrets. The 51.8-degree inclination of the faces of the Great Pyramid is not arbitrary. It creates an angle that allows for precise astronomical observations and is mathematically related to the number phi, the golden ratio found throughout nature. If you're fascinated by these mysteries, leave a like to support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any revelations, and click the high power button to help us continue bringing you this incredible content. Stonehenge. The most accurate Neolithic observatory in the world, Stonehenge, is not just a mystical stone circle. It's a prehistoric supercomputer capable of predicting eclipses, solstices, and planetary movements with millimeter precision. Built in several phases over 1,500 years, beginning in 3100 BCE. This monument reveals astronomical knowledge that challenges our understanding of the capabilities of Neolithic civilizations. Stonehenge's main axis points precisely to sunrise on the summer solstice and sunset on the winter solstice. But that's just the tip of the astronomical iceberg. The Aubrey Circle, with its 56 holes, functions as an eclipse calculator. By moving markers through the holes, the ancient Britons could predict lunar and solar eclipses decades in advance. Gerald Hawkins, an astronomer at Harvard, identified 165 significant astronomical points at Stonehenge, including alignments with the extreme positions of the Moon during its 18.6-year cycle. The heel stone, positioned outside the main circle, marks with absolute precision the exact point where the sun rises on the summer solstice. But here's the mystery. This alignment was even more precise 4,000 years ago, when it was built, taking into account the obliquity of the ecliptic at that time. The builders of Stonehenge not only observed the sky, they understood and calculated astronomical changes over time. The dimensions of Stonehenge reveal sophisticated mathematical proportions. The diameter of the outer circle, 97.5 meters, multiplied by 43.2 results in 4,212. Which is exactly half the precessional period of 25,920 years divided by 3. These proportions cannot be a coincidence. The path or avenue that extends from Stonehenge for 2.8 kilometers to the River Avon follows exactly the direction. of sunrise on the summer solstice, creating an astronomical alignment that extends far beyond the main monument. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed that Stonehenge was part of a much larger sacred landscape, with dozens of other astronomically aligned monuments scattered throughout the region, forming a Neolithic astronomical observatory complex that functioned as an integrated network for celestial observation. Angkor Wat. When architecture imitates the cosmos, the Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia is more than an architectural marvel. It's a physical replica of the Hindu universe built in stone. This 12th century complex reveals Khmer astronomical knowledge that combines scientific precision with profound spiritual symbolism. The main temple faces west, unique among the Angkor temples, aligning perfectly with the spring equinox. But the astronomical correlations go far beyond this basic orientation. Eleanor Manica, a specialist in Khmer architecture, discovered that the dimensions of Angkor Wat correspond exactly to Hindu astronomical cycles. The distance from the western entrance to the central sanctuary is 1728 meters, a number that represents a complete yuga in Hindu cosmology, a temporal cycle of 1,728,000 years. The 72 secondary towers multiplied by the number of steps in each produces 108, a sacred number representing the distance between the Earth and the Sun measured in solar diameters. The 5 central sanctuaries represent the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Hindu cosmology, but they also correspond to the 5 divisions of the ecliptic used in Indian astronomy. The moat surrounding Angkor Wat, 190 meters wide, represents the cosmic ocean that envelops the Earth in Hindu mythology, but its dimensions also correspond to precise astronomical calculations related to the sidereal year. During the equinoxes, those at the west entrance can see the sun rise directly over the central tower, creating a visual spectacle that symbolizes cosmic rebirth. But there's more. Angkor Wat's proportions follow the 4:5:6 ratio, which corresponds to the fundamental musical notes and planetary proportions calculated by Khmer astronomers. The nagas, stylized serpents that decorate the balustrades, are not merely ornamentation. They represent the paths of eclipses in Hindu astronomy and are positioned according to precise astronomical calculations. The entire complex functions as a stone calendar where shadows, alignments, and proportions mark important temporal passages for both agriculture and religious rituals, demonstrating how the Khmer integrated astronomical observation, monumental architecture, and spirituality into a single masterful creation. Machu Picchu. Inca astronomy in the heights of the Andes. Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas, reveals astronomical secrets that transform our understanding of Andean scientific sophistication. Built at an altitude of 2,430 meters, this sacred city functions as a natural astronomical observatory, taking advantage of its privileged altitude and latitude for precise celestial observations. The Intihuatana, the sacred sunstone, is the astronomical heart of Machu Picchu. This sculpted rock acts as a gnomon, a 3-dimensional sundial that not only marks the hours but also the solstices and equinoxes with absolute precision. During the winter solstice, June 21st in the southern hemisphere, the sun is exactly perpendicular to the stone at noon, casting no shadow whatsoever. This phenomenon, known to the Incas as tying the sun, marks the beginning of the new Andean year. The Hall of the Three Windows is oriented to capture the first rays of the sun during the winter solstice, creating a dramatic lighting effect that transformed the religious ritual into an astronomical experience. Each window frames a specific portion of the sky, functioning as an astronomical frame that isolated constellations important to the Inca calendar. The Temple of the Sun, with its unique semicircular wall in Machu Picchu, contains 2 trapezoidal windows that align with the extreme positions of sunrise during the solstices. The eastern window frames the winter solstice, while the western one marks the summer solstice, creating a precise temporal marker for the agricultural seasons. Recent studies have revealed that the entire Machu Picchu is aligned with the sacred mountains visible from the site, called Apis by the Incas. These mountains function as natural landmarks for specific astronomical events, such as the rising and setting of constellations important to Andean agriculture, especially the Southern Cross and the Pleiades. The geometric precision of Machu Picchu allows for astronomical observations impossible on flat terrain. The altitude eliminates atmospheric distortions, while the latitude of 13 degrees south offers privileged visibility of both northern and southern hemisphere constellations. The Incas took advantage of this unique geographical position to create celestial observations of a precision that rivals modern instruments, demonstrating extraordinary astronomical knowledge integrated into monumental architecture. Chichen Itza, the Mayan calendar in stone, the Pyramid of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza, is much more than a temple. It's a Mayan time machine built of stone that precisely marks the most important temporal cycles of the Mesoamerican civilization. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the shadows cast by the pyramid's faces create the illusion of a serpent descending the steps, an archaeo-astronomical phenomenon that demonstrates the Mayan mastery of geometry, astronomy, and engineering. This effect is not accidental, but the result of precise calculations that consider the latitude of Chichen Itza, the angle of the pyramid's faces, and the structure's exact height. The pyramid has 365 steps in total, corresponding to the days of the solar year, but the proportions reveal even deeper knowledge. Each face has 91 steps, which multiplied by 4 faces results in 364, plus the top step totaling 365, but the Maya knew that the actual solar year has 365.2422 days, and this precision is encoded in the pyramid's internal proportions through chambers and measurements that were only recently discovered by archaeologists. The Caracol Chichen Itza's astronomical observatory has windows oriented to capture specific positions of Venus, a planet of fundamental importance to the Maya. The openings in the circular tower frame the extreme positions of Venus during its 8-year cycle, allowing Mayan astronomers to accurately predict the planet's morning and evening appearances. This observatory also marks the equinoxes and the zenith passage of the sun, the moment when there are no shadows at midday. The ball court of Chichen Itza is astronomically oriented to capture the apparent movement of the Pleiades, a fundamental constellation in the Mayan agricultural calendar. The dimensions of the field correspond to proportions found in the cycles of Venus and Mars, planets whose movements the Maya calculated with surprising precision. The Maya of Chichen Itza developed more precise calendar corrections than the modern Gregorian calendar. They calculated the solar year at 365.2420 days, differing by only 17 seconds from the current value of 365.2422 days. This extraordinary precision is reflected in the architectural proportions of the monuments, which function as permanent astronomical calculators carved in stone, allowing future generations to keep their civil, religious, and agricultural calendars synchronized with the celestial movements observed by Maya astronomers during centuries of meticulous observations. Newgrange, the oldest solar temple in the world, Newgrange, in Ireland, is a monument that predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years and the Egyptian pyramids by 500 years, revealing that Neolithic European civilizations possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. Much earlier than we imagined. Built in 3200 BCE, this megalithic tomb functions as a precision sundial, marking the winter solstice with millimeter accuracy. Newgrange's most extraordinary phenomenon occurs only for 5 days around the winter solstice, when the first rays of the rising sun penetrate through a special opening called a roof box and gradually illuminate the central burial chamber, located 19 meters inside the mound. This illumination lasts exactly 17 minutes and has been happening for over 5,000 consecutive years, demonstrating extraordinary astronomical precision and engineering for the time. The entrance to Newgrange is oriented at 36 degrees southeast, an angle specifically calculated to capture the sun at the lowest point of its annual trajectory. But the orientation isn't just for the current solstice. It was calculated considering the precession of the equinoxes, ensuring the phenomenon would continue to function for millennia. Neolithic builders understood that the sun's position gradually changes over centuries and compensated for this change in the monument's orientation. The circular structure of Newgrange, 85 meters in diameter, is surrounded by 97 vertical stones decorated with spirals, rhombuses, and concentric circles that many archaeologists interpret as stylized star maps. The triple spirals engraved on the entrance stone may represent the three aspects of the Celtic lunar goddess, or the three fundamental astronomical cycles: daily, monthly, and annual. The interior of Newgrange reveals sophisticated mathematical proportions based on multiples of fundamental astronomical numbers. The height of the central chamber corresponds to precise calculations related to the 19-year Metonic cycle, which synchronizes the solar and lunar calendars. The interior passage is aligned not only with the winter solstice, but also functions as an acoustic tunnel that amplifies sounds in a specific way, suggesting that astronomical rituals involved calculated sound elements. Newgrange demonstrates that more than 5,000 years ago, Neolithic Irish communities possessed astronomical, mathematical, and engineering knowledge that allowed them to build a solar observatory that functions perfectly to this day, preceding by millennia civilizations that we traditionally credit with the development of astronomy. Göbekli Tepe. Astronomy at the dawn of civilization. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey revolutionizes our understanding of the origins of human astronomy. Built 11,500 years ago, this megalithic temple complex predates agriculture, pottery, and even Stonehenge by 6,000 years, revealing that Neolithic hunter-gatherers possessed extraordinary astronomical knowledge that motivated the construction of humanity's first monumental structures. Archaeoastronomical analyses of Göbekli Tepe reveal precise stellar alignments that functioned perfectly at the end of the last ice age. The complex is oriented to capture the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, at a time when this star marked the beginning of the seasonal rains crucial for the region's first agricultural communities. The T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe, some weighing up to 50 tons, are arranged in circles that correspond to specific stellar configurations. Enclosure D, the best preserved, has 12 pillars arranged in a circle that may represent the 12 houses of the zodiac or the 12 lunar months, astronomical concepts traditionally associated with much later civilizations. The animal sculptures on the pillars are not merely primitive art, but representations of constellations. The scorpion carved on pillar 43 corresponds to the constellation Scorpio, while the vulture may represent the constellation Cygnus. The position of these animals on the pillars corresponds to the relative positions of these constellations in the night sky 9,500 years before the Common Era. Martin Sweetman from the University of Edinburgh proposed that Göbekli Tepe commemorates a specific astronomical event: the impact of the comet that caused the Younger Dryas cold period 12,900 years ago. The symbols on the pillars may represent a star map marking the exact date of this devastating cosmic event, functioning as an astronomical memorial engraved in stone. The overall orientation of Göbekli Tepe points to the constellation of Orion in its position 11,500 years ago, but it also takes into account the precession of the equinoxes, indicating that these ancient builders understood long-term astronomical cycles. The complex may have functioned as an observatory to predict important celestial events for communities that depended on precise natural cycles. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe forces a complete revision of the chronology of human astronomy. This site demonstrates that the systematic observation of the sky and knowledge of complex astronomical cycles preceded the development of writing, cities, and metallurgy by millennia, suggesting that astronomy was one of the earliest human sciences and a fundamental driver in the development of civilization. Nabta Playa, or Stonehenge du Sahara. Nabta Playa, located in southern Egypt, is an astronomical complex that predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years and reveals that nomadic African herders developed one of the world's earliest organized astronomical traditions. Built between 6,000 and 4,000 BCE, this extraordinary archaeological site demonstrates that ancient African civilizations possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge that influenced the later development of Egyptian astronomy. The main stone circle at Nabta Playa is oriented to capture the sunrise during the summer solstice, marking the beginning of the monsoon rains that temporarily transform the desert into verdant pastures. But the astronomical alignments go far beyond the basic solstices. The stones are positioned to mark the heliacal rising of specific stars that indicated the beginning of the rainy season, vital information for nomadic herders who depended on this temporal precision to plan seasonal migrations. Thomas Brophy, an astrophysicist at the University of California, discovered that the smaller stone configurations at Nabda Playa correspond exactly to the positions of specific stars as seen 6,000 years ago. The complex functions as a three-dimensional star map that replicates on Earth the celestial configuration of constellations important for navigation and seasonal timing. 5. Sets of aligned stones represent the stars of Orion's belt, but in their positions as they appeared in the sky between 6,400 and 4,900 BCE, demonstrating systematic astronomical observations over 1,500 years. The buried megalithic structures of Nabda Playa reveal even greater surprises. Recent excavations have uncovered underground stone chambers containing carved rocks corresponding to specific celestial bodies. One chamber contains a work stone that may represent the star Vega, important for navigation, while another contains objects that correspond to planets visible to the naked eye. The Nabda Playa calendar integrated solar, stellar, and seasonal observations into a sophisticated temporal system that allowed nomadic herders to coordinate herd movements with astronomical precision. The system developed at Nabda Playa directly influenced the development of astronomy in the Nile Valley. Symbols and orientations found at the site later appear in Egyptian temples, suggesting that African astronomical traditions migrated north along with populations that settled on the banks of the Nile, bringing knowledge developed in the Green Sahara to what would become one of the most sophisticated astronomical civilizations of antiquity. Caral. Astronomy in the oldest civilization in the Americas. Caral, in Peru, reveals that astronomy was fundamental from the very beginning of American civilization. Built 5,000 years ago, the city is contemporary with the Egyptian pyramids and predates all other known American civilizations, demonstrating that systematic astronomical observations motivated urban development in the New World from its earliest origins. The pyramids of Caral are astronomically oriented with impressive precision, especially considering they were built before the development of writing or metallurgy in the region. The main pyramid points directly to the sunrise during the winter solstice, marking the beginning of the Andean agricultural year, while other structures mark equinoxes and extreme positions of the moon during its 18.6-year cycle. Ruth Shady, the archaeologist responsible for the excavations at Caral, discovered that the entire urban planning of the city follows specific astronomical orientations. The circular plazas are positioned to capture solar shadows at specific times of the year, functioning as urban calendars that coordinated agricultural, commercial, and ceremonial activities according to precise celestial cycles. The discovery of astronomical instruments in Caral includes work stones that function as portable gnomons and circular structures that may have served as rudimentary observatories. These instruments reveal that the inhabitants of Caral not only observed the sky casually, but developed specific tools for systematic astronomical observations and precise temporal calculations. Excavations have also revealed evidence of complex astronomical rituals. Offerings found in alignment with specific stellar orientations suggest that religious ceremonies were synchronized with celestial events, integrating astronomy, agriculture, and spirituality into a unified cultural system that would characterize later Andean civilizations. Caral's agriculture fundamentally depended on precise astronomical knowledge. The region has a desert climate where agricultural timing must be perfect to take advantage of limited water resources. The inhabitants developed an astronomical calendar that synchronized planting and harvesting with seasonal weather patterns, using celestial observations to optimize food production under challenging environmental conditions. Caral demonstrates that astronomy was a fundamental element in the development of the first American civilization, not merely an intellectual curiosity, but an essential technology that enabled the population growth, urban planning, and social coordination necessary to sustain one of the world's first cities. The astronomical knowledge developed in Caral influenced all subsequent Andean civilizations. establishing observational traditions that would culminate in the astronomical sophistication of the Incas thousands of years later. The global pattern, impossible connections between civilizations. Comparative analysis of global astronomical alignments reveals patterns so consistent that they defy conventional explanations of the independent development of knowledge. Civilizations separated by oceans and millennia built monuments with nearly identical astronomical orientations, suggesting common sources of knowledge or far more advanced observational capabilities than we have historically recognized. The precision of the alignments is the first mystery. Monuments on different continents point to the same stars with margins of error of fractions of a degree, a precision that would require sophisticated instruments and advanced mathematical knowledge. The Great Pyramid of Egypt, Stonehenge in England, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and Machu Picchu in Peru all incorporate the same astronomical constant, the 25,920-year precessional cycle, divided by specific proportions that appear in the architectural dimensions of each monument. Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval documented that megalithic monuments globally incorporate star maps from the same epoch, approximately 10,500 years before the Common Era. This specific date appears encoded in the alignments of Giza, the orientations of Angkor Wat, and the proportions of American monuments, suggesting the intentional preservation of an astronomically significant date across globally spread architectural traditions. Knowledge of the obliquity of the ecliptic, the angle of the Earth's tilt that slowly changes over millennia, appears in monuments built long before the supposed discovery of this phenomenon by the Greeks. Megalithic builders compensated for changes in obliquity by designing alignments that would remain accurate for thousands of years, demonstrating an extraordinarily advanced understanding of celestial mechanics. The mathematical proportions found in the monuments reveal another perplexing global pattern. The number phi, 1.618, the golden ratio, appears in the dimensions of the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, and American structures with a frequency that eliminates the possibility of coincidence. This proportion, which governs natural growth and mathematical harmony, was being consciously applied in monumental architecture thousands of years before its supposed discovery by Greek mathematicians. The temporal synchronization of the alignments presents the deepest mystery. Monuments built at different times were designed for alignments that functioned perfectly on specific dates in the distant past, especially between 12,000 and 10,000 BCE. This period corresponds to the end of the last ice age and to specific astronomical events that appear encoded in global megalithic traditions, suggesting cultural preservation of traumatic cosmic events experienced by earlier civilizations. The geographical distribution of astronomical knowledge does not follow expected patterns of cultural diffusion. Isolated monuments on remote islands, such as Easter Island, incorporate the same astronomical principles found on distant continents, suggesting that observational traditions were more widely distributed in prehistory than conventional theories allow, or that ancient navigation and communication capabilities were far more advanced than we currently recognize. Today we discover that our ancestors possessed astronomical knowledge that rivals our modern science. Ancient civilizations not only observed the sky, they understood complex cycles, calculated precession, and designed monuments for future alignments with extraordinary precision. These discoveries force a complete reassessment of our assumptions about ancient intellectual capabilities and suggest that the history of human astronomy is far richer and more mysterious than we imagined. Megalithic monuments function as messages in stone, preserving astronomical knowledge through millennia and connecting us to a global scientific heritage that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. If this video expanded your understanding of humanity's past, please like and subscribe to the channel for more archaeological revelations. I recommend watching the video currently playing on the screen about other mysteries of ancient astronomy that will surprise you even more. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the astronomical secrets of our ancestors.